welcome to Business Television India. You're watching Unlisted Jewels and I am Hiral Desai. On this edition of the show, we get you an Indian smartphone, consumer durables and IT accessories manufacturer founded in 1996 by Narendra Bansal. In fact, currently, Keshav Bansal, son of Narendra Bansal, is the active director of the company. Keshav joined Intex in 2012 and he worked his way up and gained respect for his successful marketing idea to have celebrities as brand ambassadors. In fact, in 2015, Bansal was appointed director of Intex Technologies. Intex is India's, in fact, second largest selling mobile phone company by sales. And in 2012, from an IT product company, Intex expanded to consumer durables portfolio with the entry in LED TV business. Today, if you go to see, the LED TV business has seen a growth of over 150% and currently almost has a market share of 6 to 7% in the LED TV segment and a 3 to 4% market share in the washing machine segment nationally. Let's welcome in Keshav Bansal, Director at Intex Technologies. Welcome to the show, Keshav.
Thank you.
Overall, Intex, one of the first Indian companies to get into where Indian mobile phones or smartphones are concerned.
Yeah.
What led to the creation of Intex? Because 1996, a 21-year-old brand now.
So thank you for having me on the show. My father, Mr. Narendra Bansal, he started his way, from scratch. He used to click pictures at Birla Temple. That time, I'm talking about 1980s. He slowly, gradually started trading of audio cassettes during that period, 1990s. There was a demand. There was a huge demand of electronic products like Ethernet cards. That was the first product which we started with. That time, the Indian market was dominated by the MNCs.
Correct.
There was no major Indian player, and so Mr. Narendra Bansal, my father, saw huge demand for these electronic products because it was dominated by MNCs. They used to charge an exorbitant price. So my father saw this opportunity. He set up Intex in 1996. We started with a seed capital of ₹10,000 with one product, Ethernet cards. And slowly and gradually, as you said that, as you mentioned, we diversified our ways. We started as an IT product company.
Correct.
We diversified into speakers, then into mobile handsets in 2007, and now a major in consumer durables. So Intex is now a complete consumer electronics and a mobile handset major company.
Correct. You joined the company in 2012, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
What led you to join the company? Was this always the plan, or was it something else that you wanted to do? And here is where you land up as the way usually family businesses function.
Well, I would say technology has always excited me since my childhood. So there was this thing at the back of my mind that I want to take Intex to greater heights when I join the business. But at the same time, I must mention that I have this hobby for acting. So I always wanted to try my hand in acting. So during my college days and my high school days, I did give it a shot. And then later on, once during the last final year of my college, I saw a great opportunity. There were certain gaps which I found can be fulfilled and will take Intex to greater heights. So I think it was just a coincidence that time I got into the business. I started with the logistics department. First 6 months I was based out of the warehouse, wasn't allowed to enter the corporate office. I used to do the most basic jobs of loading and unloading of boxes, in the scorching heat of June, July in Delhi. And then got into the marketing department. Intex has always had a strong presence. If I talk about electronic Indian companies, as I mentioned, there weren't really many of them. So we've had a legacy. People have used our products, since 1996. But when we came in to mobile handsets in 2007, over the years, I felt that there was a need for a revamp of the brand image.
So let me interrupt over here. Was it that when you launched the mobile handsets, that's when the brand awareness actually started to pick up as compared to what was happening between 96 and the time you launched mobile handsets?
Well, we've been a completely a consumer brand since starting, but I think mobile handsets is a product which a consumer today wants to flaunt about. You know, it's his or her style statement. So yes, post the launch of mobile handsets, our marketing spends have increased definitely. We have to be well over the top of the mind of the consumers, you know. So that is something which has definitely changed the perception and the brand image of Intex. And going forward also, you know, if you have to be the leader, hold the leadership position in a consumer category, your brand has to be extremely strong.
Right. You know, I will come back to that as well in terms of marketing spend. If I'm not mistaken, 2016 was almost a 250 crore marketing spend that you had. As a percentage of your sales, where does it stand currently? And to what extent do you see Intex spending in the next 4 to 5 years?
Well, that's right. We spent about 250 crores in marketing in 2016. I only see this going up in the coming years. We clocked a turnover of about $1 billion in financial year 15-16 with that kind of marketing spends. Going forward, as I told you, the vision is very clear. We aim to maintain the leadership position in the respective categories we operate, and also make Intex a household name globally. So I only see these spends going up maybe to 400-500 crores in the next 2 to 3 years coming up, because ultimately for any consumer brand to hold that leadership position, it's very important to be on the top of the mind of the consumer. You need to connect with your consumers on a day-to-day basis.
Right. I can't even ask you when do you see yourself becoming a billion-dollar company, because you're already one now. But as you mentioned, 400 to 500 crores is the kind of marketing spend that you would look at in the next 2 to 3 years or, you know, down the line. You have attached yourself to a lot of activities in terms of marketing. You're attached to the IPL team as well. Apart from that, what's the plan here now? What was the core agenda in terms of the IPL team? Was it your passion for sports, or was it a pure marketing play?
Well, I must say it was a blessing in disguise. The prime reason of buying an IPL team was as a user, as a innovative marketing tool for brand Intex, and I think it worked wonders for us. At the same time, I have a personal passion for sports, so I think it was the perfect combination for me to drive something which I've always been associated with. Hence, IPL, we've been associated with cricket always, throughout the last 10 years, but we were on the other side of the table. So with this move, I think we were very happy the kind of results we attained.
As you just mentioned about geographies as well, very interestingly, Gujarat and Uttar Pradesh, or probably the northern bit of India, is where you're really strong at currently in terms of market share or market presence as well. What do you think, if you could just give me a breakup currently in terms of geographies, what part of, which regions, what's the contribution basically?
Well, Intex is very strong in north and the west part of India. So approximately, I would say 30% comes, 30% of sales come from north. About 25-30 comes from west, and about 15% come from the eastern region, and about 20-25% comes from the southern region. That's the current breakup.
So going ahead in the next 4 to 5 years, do you see this mix changing?
Well, see, as I told you that we have aspirations to be leaders in the respective categories. So definitely, if we aim to do that, we have to be leaders in all the states, you know. So definitely, for sure, let's say South, for that matter, is I feel that holds a lot of potential. As per the industry standards, South contributes almost 30% to the total revenues, whether it be mobile or consumer durables industry. So South definitely is going to increase. North and West, we are quite strong, and we I think it'll be good if we are able to sustain this market share.
So as you just mentioned about consumer durables as well, you're doing refrigerators, you're doing air coolers, air purifiers, washing machines as well. As per your, Intex, what's the market share that you have in these individual categories?
There are a lot of product categories which we've diversified into, as you rightly said. LED TVs is something which is going very strong, I must mention. We sold about 125,000 units last month, September 2016. 17, which was the highest for any brand. So we've officially become the #1 Indian consumer durable brand in LED TVs. Again, washing machines, I would say we've got about 2 to 3% market share, which again I see in the next financial year we have a target of double-digit figure.
You're talking about FY18 itself?
That's right.
Okay.
LED TV, again, we are aiming at we are aiming to double the market share to what it is current right now. Consumer durables, as I'm mentioning, you holds a lot of potential. Interesting to note over here is that the global penetration of air conditioners stands at around 64%. But when you compare
to India,
is at about 3%. So you can see
there's a huge scope of expansion coming in there.
So again, at air conditions again, we are aiming to double our market share. Refrigerators will take a little time. I think by the end of financial year 19, we'll be speeding up our refrigerators.
So currently, if you have to compare your revenue contribution from consumer durables vis-a-vis mobiles, what percentage comes from consumer durables and what percentage comes?
About 70% of the revenue comes in from the mobile business, and at about 30% comes from the consumer durables. But again, going the coming years, I think the next financial year the split would become somewhere around 55-45%, because again consumer durables is growing at a very strong pace.
Overall, if you see in terms of our volumes go, I was just reading a report which said that the Indian mobile industry is projected to grow at probably a 5% CAGR till 2020 in terms of volumes. In consonance to this, what's the kind of CAGR growth that we could look at for an Intex mobile?
Well, currently, if I talk about Intex's current market share, both feature phone, smartphone, we stand at about 7%. I think in the next 3 years, we will easily be able to at least go 2.5 times. If I talk about smartphones specifically, if you see the industry, the consumers are upgrading from feature phone to smartphones. So apart from the growth in the volume share, there is going to be a huge growth in the value share. Even if you talk about the industry is growing at a much faster pace on the value aspect. So again, our aim at the value share is again to double the figures for the next financial year. But
when you talk about market share as well, we have seen Intex with a peak market share of over 12% in 2015.
Yeah.
What do you think were the reasons that it came down to 7% now?
Well, there have been a lot of reasons. You can't deny that there has been an influx of a lot of foreign Chinese brands who've been pumping unwanted monies, I would say. I can use that word because they've been investing a lot. At the same time, I would say the recent factors which everyone does understand, whether it be demonetization or GST, has taken the industry by storm. So all the players have been affected. But again, these are all short-term things.
But Chinese players, Keshav, will keep coming in now as well.
Yeah.
So what do you think would be the factors that would help you go to the double-digit mark again now?
There are a lot of factors. As I told you, we have one of the most, I would say, the strongest manufacturing strength as compared to any other brand. We are here since 2 decades. I mean, we understand the pulse of the consumer like no one else. Intex has always been known for producing state-of-the-art technological products at affordable prices. That is the reason from financial year 12 till 15-16, we have been growing at a CAGR of around 80%. So there are a lot of factors. We've got a service strength of touch base of around 1,600 plus service centers. So all these factors put together, again, consumers have been using Intex's products for the last 2 decades.
So as you're talking that yes, it is a mass phone right now currently. What's the price range that we could actually say that it starts from here and ends at here for an Intex?
So Intex's feature phones start as low as 1,000 rupees for a consumer, and they go up till about 14,000 for a high-end smartphone.
So when you talk of this, what happens is it becomes affordable to the masses. But sometimes when you think of a class as well, people don't really want to divert themselves probably from an Apple or a Samsung to probably you could say an Intex or a Micromax or any of the Chinese brands as well. Do you think you're not able to hit that premium market on the back of the price point?
It's not about we are not able to hit it. I think
Or you don't want to hit it, basically?
Our conscious, if you see the industry breakup, the maximum volume, the maximum value, the maximum numbers, the sweet spot lies from the 4,000 rupees till the 15,000. So I think that has been our conscious effort, and we would like to focus.
So volumes are higher here as compared to the premium segment as well.
So there has been a conscious effort to tap this market, and going forward, you never know. Probably 2 years, 3 years down the line, we will be increasing the ASP of our product. So you might as well see a phone at about 25,000-30,000 coming from the house of Intex.
Talking about your manufacturing unit as well. Currently, if I'm not mistaken, you have 5 manufacturing units, Jammu, Baddi, Noida, and you have an R&D center in Delhi.
That's right.
So if you talk about your manufacturing as well, what's the capacity utilization in totality for the mobile phone separately, as well as from the consumer-driven products as well?
We have a capacity of manufacturing about 24 million mobile handsets annually.
Okay.
And about 3.6 million speakers annually. We are manufacturing mobile handsets, speakers, mobile accessories, LED televisions. Again, at the same time, we have a massive state-of-the-art 2 million square foot facility coming up in Kasna.
Okay.
Again, we will be consolidating most of our manufacturing facilities in Kasna.
Okay.
So I think we have a very bright future.
But currently, the number that you gave me is your peak capacity.
That's right.
How much are you utilizing currently?
We would be utilizing it probably at about 60% right now.
Okay, so you still have 40%.
Yes.
And what happens in terms of washing machines, air conditioners, air purifiers go? Is it a third-party contract manufacturing that you're resorting to currently, or it's in-house?
Well, most of it is being manufactured in our factories in China.
Okay.
But as I told you, going forward in probably about 1 year down the line, all the product offerings from Intex will be manufactured, will be coming out from our Kasna manufacturing facility.
And what's the timeline that we could look at for this?
We've started the process.
But when do you think would commercialization start?
Mid next year.
Okay. And what's the kind of capex plan that you have for this kind of
Well,
facility?
if I talk about manufacturing plus R&D put together, we plan to invest about 1,000 crores in the next 3 to 4 years.
And would this be completely from internal accruals, or would you be looking to raise money for the same, or in terms of debt or something like that?
Broadly till now we've been doing everything from our internal funds, but I think we might go.
So there has been no investment taken from outside yet in terms of Intex Technologies?
Not right now.
That's a pretty interesting story then to reach a 6,000 crore company or cross the $1 billion mark as well without any external funding. What is your plan in terms of our exports go? Because to my knowledge, that's something very new that you've started.
Right.
What's the plan there? And in the next 5 years, what percentage of your revenues do you think could come from exports?
Well, as I started, we want Intex's name to be synonymous, India's name to be synonymous with brand Intex, worldwide. So again, currently we are present in approximately 15 countries. Again, if I talk about, we've entered Russia, if I talk about the Africa market, East Europe, specifically the Southeast Asian countries, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, these are all very highly potential markets. We foresee approximately 25 to 30% of our revenues coming from the exports in the next 4 to 5 years.
That's an interesting number. Then, overall, if you go to see, we are seeing a lot of competition that's happening in terms of handsets. You have telecom players as well who are entering the space with 4G enabled phones. If I'm not mistaken, I think Foxconn has partnered with Jio, as well as they're looking to manufacture Apple as well pretty soon. With all of this happening, do you think consolidation is something that could take place in the handset market?
handset market and the telecom operator market is, and the third one being the e-commerce. I rate these three as the most dynamic and volatile markets of our times. And I think with more competition, the journey becomes more exciting. You know?
Does the market size increase with this?
100%. I mean, with as you mentioned, with the as soon as Jio comes in, the usage of internet has gone up. People buying smartphones has gone up. So ultimately, it's the end consumer which benefits, and the market opens.
Correct. The market opens. But what I'm trying to ask you over here is that, as you mentioned, with Jio, you know, the consumer base starts increasing.
Right.
But in turn, you have a Jio itself who's providing you with a mobile phone, which is almost free of cost for the next 3 years.
That's okay, but the market is massive.
But does that impact?
It does a little bit, but I think Jio does not have a, I mean, they are coming up with the feature phones right now, but Intex is a brand which consumers have used over the years. They have a trust on the brand Intex. So I think, as I'm telling you, ultimately, net in conclusion, it opens up for the market. It's very good for the consumer, and it keeps the brand on its toes. You know.
The way you're reaching places currently, what's the kind of distribution profile that you have as a company?
Well, we've got a very strong distribution network. Currently, we have a touch base to about 2 lakh retailers, put together consumer durables and mobile handsets, which are catered through about 3,000 distributors across the company.
And where do we see that expanding to?
Well, I think Intex is fairly, it's present in almost every nook and corner of the nation. We have a very, very strong distribution base. So I think sustaining this is more important than expanding.
Perfect. So with that question, what I'm going to ask you next is, $1 billion, as we know you've already achieved.
Yeah.
What's the next revenue top line milestone that you have in mind?
We are looking at about $3 to $4 billion in the next 4 to 5 years.
So that gets me to, I think, 21, 22 is something where we could see Intex.
2022, yeah.
2022 to probably $3 to $4 billion mark.
If not more.
That's a perfect one. And lastly, as you said that, you know, for expansion, 1,000 crores is the kind of investment that you are going to look at. And this is mainly in terms of CapEx.
Yeah.
But apart from that,
only in manufacturing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Plus, you have another 400, 500 crores worth of investment that you're going to look at in terms of marketing spend as well. Plus, you have your distribution, which will take up some money.
Plus service.
Exactly.
Plus the R&D house.
Taking all of this into consideration, what number do you think in terms of finances is what Intex will need on an overall basis in the next 4 to 5 years?
Cumulative.
Cumulative.
Well, if we have aspirations to reach...
exactly, to reach the 3 to 4 billion mark.
We would need at least $1 billion in the next 4 to 5 years.
So, to get this kind of $1 billion, any plans to come out with an IPO?
Well, I can say that we are trying to do whatever best we can in our through internal funds. But if we have an opportunity coming in, we would be very happy.
Right, but as a company, as an entrepreneur, is that the dream with Intex, that yes, if not today, if not in the next 2 years, but one day I want to take Intex to an IPO level and make it a listed company?
Well, why not, for sure.
And probably if a $3 to $4 billion company in the next, by 2022, what's the aspiration that you have to come out with an IPO and make it a listed jewel then?
Well, I'll reframe this. When I say a capex requirement of $1 billion, it also includes our international market expansion.
Marketing, obviously.
So we will be looking at about $5 to $6 billion for the next, in terms, if I combine the complete group's turnover. And as I told you, IPO again is not a thing which we are really planning right now. But if it comes on the way, and we're not really rigid about it, that so it completely depends on the situation. So
in terms of fundraising as well, it could be via an IPO, it could be through PEs or venture capital.
It could be.
Or in any other form.
Yeah.
Right. All right, Keshav, it was a pleasure having you on the show. So that was Keshav Bansal, Director at Intex Technologies, clearly giving out his growth plans over the next 5 to 10 years, and you never know when the IPO is on the block. So that's all that we have on this edition of Unlisted Jewels. Thanks for watching.